Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Hello and welcome to Living on the Edge. Ralegaon Siddhi in the heart of Maharashtra is a living reminder that the Gandhian ideal of the village as the center of all development activity is not a utopian notion. Tisha Srivastav spent a few days in this village in one of the worst drought-ridden districts to find that an amazing turnaround has been achieved in a deceptively simple way. By using the one resource nature has given the villagers so little of.
Babu Genu Mahapari spends most of his time feeding the chickens that flock around him, just as he once had the villagers flocking for arak in his infamous liquor den.
तिथे 4 जेवण दारू पिऊन 4 जेवण मिळे. सावकार लोक होती परगावची, त्यांना आमुष्या पुनव म्हणून नाव ठेवलं होतं. एक सावकार आमुष्याला यायचा, एक सावकार पौर्णिमेला यायचा. धड चुकून दारू पिऊन मनुष्य आला, पिणारा आला तर तुम्ही सारखा काय म्हणता, हे काय बोलतोस, हे हरामखोर, पैशाला काय कमी का माझ्याकडे, पैसा 4 पैसे खिशात नसायचे त्याच्या, पण घरी गेलं तर भाकर नसायची. घरी भाकरवाड बायकोला म्हणायचे, मारहाण करायचे.
But things seems to have changed in Ralegaon Siddhi in this perpetually drought-hit Ahmednagar district of Maharashtra.
बाई माझ्या गौर दियानी बांधला बंगला, यानं बांधिला बंगला.
We probed for evidence of drought, poverty, a liquor den, or even a moneylender, but were pleasantly surprised to find none. Wherever the eye or the camera panned, there was water. Taps, hand pumps, bore wells. Apparently, women do not need to walk more than 100 meters to collect water. Unbelievable in an area that receives only 10 inches of rain for only 35 days a year. This may mean little to those who have to stretch out a lazy hand to have a tap gushing. But in a village where a journey to the water source means a long, arduous drudgery, to have been spared it is an achievement indeed. And that's not all. Ralegaon Siddhi, spread over 1,000 acres, has many more modern surprises in store. How did a lushness do up this dry, endless scape of unrelenting land? After retiring from the army,
अकाल 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 अकाल
बोलकर सर में हाथ देकर बैठे हैं। गांव में 15 से 20% लोग एक टाइम पर खाना खा के दूसरे टाइम भूखे सोते थे। 55% लोग बाहर से अनाज लेकर खाते थे। तो पीने के लिए पानी नहीं, खाने के लिए अनाज नहीं, इस स्थिति में ये गांव जा रहा था।
Above all, even the village temple lay derelict, dilapidated. With his own provident fund, he decided to rally the people obsessed with alcohol into reconstructing the temple and their self-worth in the process. Whoever came for Shramdan got a special mention on the village notice board. Anna Hazare helped the villagers find jobs in government employment schemes and the army as well, and most of all recognized the importance of managing the one resource that could bring them prosperity. The philosophy was Pani Arva, Pani Jiva, that is, trap the water where it falls. Today, every villager spouts this philosophy as his own. For example, this watchman was very proud of how today they have over 500 acres of grassland and over 3 lakh trees, which has given constructive employment to the younger generation.
ते चरायला कसं काय दिसतं तुम्हाला? ते केलं कसं आम्ही? हे श्रमदानाने काय कामं केले? काही आपल्या रोजंदारीची माणसं लावून कामं केली आणि झाडाची लागवड करून घेतली आम्ही. तर याच्यामध्ये झाडं लावण्यामध्ये का आले? तर हे अण्णांचं वाक्य होतं का डोंगर उघडं न व्हावं, त्याच्यावर काहीतरी माती थांबावं म्हणून त्याच्याकरता झाडं लावून.
In a rural context, poverty rarely ever means a shortage of cash. It has more to do with shortage of biomass resources to meet basic survival needs. Realizing this, Anna set about evolving his integrated rural development approach. Topsoil didn't get washed off. Constructing underground check dams, contour trenches and nala bunds and innovative water harvesting systems. With water conservation techniques like drip irrigation, the villagers could think of cultivating more than one crop a year.
आणि पाण्याची पातळी आता या नाला बिल्डिंगवर पातळी वाढलेली, तर आम्हाला पाणी आता पुरत नव्हतं पहिलं, पण आता पाणी पुरू लागलं. तर आम्ही बाजरी, गहू, हरभरा, कांदा, ज्वारी अशी आम्ही पिकं काढतो. काय
Nasbandi, that is sterilization, Nashabandi, that is prohibition, Kuranbandi, that is ban on grazing, and Kurharbandi, ban on tree felling. With this fourfold approach, there was enough fodder for the cattle and the land bore fruit. Migration practically stopped because the per head income rose from 200 to 2,100. Raligan Siddhi now employs labour from neighbouring villages, and land under irrigation is over 1,100 acres.
आज आप देखोगे तो एक भी फैमिली भूखी नहीं है, एक भी फैमिली बाहर से अनाज नहीं लेती। इतना नहीं, इस गांव में जो पानी पीने के लिए हम लोग टैंकर बुलाते थे, उसी गांव से तरकारी विदेश में भेजी गई।
While all this sounds suspiciously easy in retrospect, it has been achieved in a sustainable way by those who had no formal education. Anna himself had studied only till the 7th standard. Common sense and 10 years of struggle helped the villagers achieve what they wanted. Government help was sought, but it was never forthcoming. The unwillingness of officials to be interviewed gives us some idea about how difficult it must have been for the villagers.
रालेगन सिद्धि के काम में आज कई लाखों रुपए की योजना अपनाई है, लेकिन आज तक 5 रुपया भी किसी से रिश्वत नहीं दी। आखिर सरकार कौन है? हम लोग तो सरकार है।
Cynics may read political motives into that, but the villagers of Raligan Siddhi bear testimony to the fact that an informed public is still anybody's best bet against the insurmountable bureaucracy. It is only determined people like these who take up challenges to make the land relent, to end the practice of dowry, and set up co-educational institutions like this one where only failures are granted admission. We couldn't meet the students as they were away on vacation, but we did speak to the matron of the boys' hostel, built entirely by the villagers doing Shramdan.
पहले बच्चों को सर्विस नहीं मिलता था क्योंकि वो पढ़े लिखे नहीं थे। तो जब यहाँ अन्ना जी ने यह स्कूल ओपन किया तब से बहुत लड़के अभी स्कूल में पढ़ते हैं। अच्छा लड़का बनाने के लिए तो ज़्यादा तकलीफ नहीं होती, लेकिन जो बिगड़ा हुआ बच्चा है उसको ठीक करना बहुत तकलीफ का काम होता है।
That in essence is also the spirit of Ralegan Siddhi, where if you are lucky enough to be invited for a meal, be prepared to wash your own plates. The surprises seem unending. In 20 years, there hasn't been a single police case. Problems are resolved at the Gram Panchayat level. Here, there is still reason to believe that in the age of AK-47s, the Gandhian spirit is not only not obsolete, but it can work wonders. The untiring rejuvenation effort of Anna Hazare and his people will leave for generations to come a future better than the one they had, simply by nurturing the one natural resource that nature had been so frugal with.
Still to come, how the huge amounts of fish that trawlers catch are destroying the delicate ecological balance and becoming an occupational hazard for traditional fishermen, and why this milk is neither good for you nor for the cow who gives it to you. Technology is always a bitter pill to swallow in a country like India with so many working hands. In the tussle between what the human hand can do and what the mechanical hand can execute, there is the danger of people becoming obsolete. This is a problem that Manohar Bijur of Bombay has expressed concern about. He feels the granting of licenses to foreign trawlers to fish in Indian waters is unnecessary. This has resulted not only in the decline of marine life and resources, but also deprived our own fishing community of their source of livelihood. Manira Alva visited Goa to see just how far mechanization and ruthless competition for a limited catch have made ordinary fishermen obsolete.
Foreign ventures boats are doing the fishing in the Indian waters. If Indian boats are doing the fishing, we have got no objection.
आणि आम्ही सरकाराकडे खूपशे मागत आसात आमकां 5 किलोमीटर बोटी भायर वडच्यो बर्सिंग आहाय ते तेज्यान भायर रावचे कित्याक सगळ्यांकूच नुस्त्याक मेळचें अशें आमकां दिसता आनीक ह्या आमी सरकारा कडेन खूब वर्सां जालीं आमी ही मागणी मागता पूण सरकारान आमचें एकूय घेवना कानार
20 वर्सां जालीं आमची युनियन गेल्यार आनी हे युनियनाक आमी फकत जगण म्हणजे आमचें ट्रॉलर लागून ट्रॉलर देगे येताय आनी 50-100 मिटरांचे ते नुस्तें आमी पळय नुस्तें मारताय तितून आपण नुस्तें मारताय आनी आमचीं झाडां आमी घालताय ती पिंजताय थोडे काबार करताय आनी सगळें नुस्तें मारताय आनी आमची परिस्थिती अशी जाल्या सारकी ते नुस्तें मारून आमी कितें पळय जेवताले ते आमी सद्या दिसा 3 पाट जेवताले ते आमकां आतां जेवण एकी पाट मेळटा.
In Goa, there isn't much of a distinction between fishermen and prey. The bigger and more mechanized you are, the bigger you haul, and greater the likelihood of smaller fishermen being wiped out. And with the catch decreasing every year because of overfishing, traditional fishermen are walking the tightrope between survival and almost certain destruction.
Until 2 years ago, fish like the sardine were commonly found in the local markets of Goa. Today, they are practically non-existent. Experts link their disappearance to the indiscriminate fishing of trawlers, be it by joint venture or Indian firms, and the latter's repeated violation of straying within the 5 kilometers from coast zone reserved only for the non-mechanized sector. The result? The local fishermen and marine life with which he lived so much in harmony are today endangered.
Traditional fishermen were in consonance with nature. They were guided more by nature. See, they caught mackerels, for example, but they never caught mackerels overbearing. Why is it that they could not catch it? It is simple that their canoes could not cross over the breakwaters during the monsoon season. The mackerels would come, lay their eggs about 10 to 15, 20 meters depth. The traditional fishermen could not go there because of the turbulence in the sea. So they would lay their eggs and then it would come to the coast and they would cast their net and catch all these fish.
The process, though seemingly primitive, ensured that the fishermen had enough to eat, enough to sell, and marine life had a collective chance to propagate itself. The only danger that the Rampoka faced was from the Indian trawlers that cast nets close to the coast where 60% of the fish are found. Not only was this illegal, it also deprived the traditional fisherman of his sustenance. Today he is so desperate that he dries a bit of his catch before selling it.
It is said that the total fish to be caught in our country is about 4 million tons, out of which traditional sector in the Indian mechanized sector has already been catching 2.6 million tons. Now what is left is about 14 lakh tons.
Doesn't this mean that the issue of trawler licenses should be restricted to allow regeneration of stock to maintain the ecological balance and allow community fishing to survive? And what about foreign trawlers that enter our coastal waters and break our laws with impunity?
Foreign vessels are doing the fishing. Our Goan vessels can do, and also the Indian vessels can do the fishing. Fishing boats are capable to do the fishing for the last 4 years, which we could not do previously. Now we are in a position to now do the fishing where this foreign vessel fishing are doing now.
As a matter of fact, we don't need foreign people to come and fish in our waters when we ourselves fish there. And demarcation of areas in the water is only theoretical, Practically it is very difficult.
Though several trawler owners promised to take us aboard to film a day's fishing, they all changed their minds at the last minute. Perhaps it's because they didn't consider themselves above scrutiny. Their highly advanced equipment is able to pinpoint the exact location of the school of fish, and within minutes of dropping their nets, they're able to pick up the entire lot. Foreign trawlers, on the other hand, use what is called the bull crawl, which means that 2 trailers placed at a distance of about 20 kilometers apart through a common net that grabs hundreds of fish that are in the vicinity. Trawler fishing sounds efficient, but it's destructive of nature's cycle. It ignores the spawning period during the monsoons when depleting stocks regenerate. This means that the catch is going to reduce each year until it becomes negligible. Traditional fishermen never fish during the monsoon. Neither are they able to go too far afield to augment their catch.
They ought to have introduced mechanized sector on the principle that they ought to go in the deeper waters. But they did not think of that. Allow them to fish in the coastal waters, and what has happened ultimately, they have only displaced the traditional fishermen of their catch.
That something is wrong with our fisheries policy is obvious, and that is probably why no one from Goa's fisheries agreed to meet us. International standards prescribe that there should not be more than 3 trawlers for every kilometer of coast. Goa itself already has over 1,000 trawlers for its 120-kilometer shoreline. That means that overfishing is not a danger, but a reality.
But the question is whether the policy makers should allow it to make them go. Because you see, the result is diminishing returns. The more trawlers you put, less fetch you catch per unit. And therefore, that is going to be a total loss.
Matters have come to a piquant head in Goa. The traditional fisherman is naturally against trawlers of any sort. Indian trawler owners are dead against joint venture trawlers. But given a choice, each of the protagonists would opt for a greater degree of mechanization. The broader impact of marine life and a common property resource doesn't seem to be anybody's concern. Certainly not the government's, with its short-sighted policies that it can neither enforce nor modify them to suit prevailing conditions. One thing is certain though, the disappearance of the catch, which is now more than just a possibility, will wake everyone up.
They say waking up to a problem is the first step towards putting things right. But what would viewers like Moushami Guha of Calcutta, who get incensed by the caging of birds and the chaining of dogs, say if they knew that the cows that give us milk are being pumped with steroids to make them more productive? Shonar Joshi's astonishing report shows just how far people will go to make an extra buck.
It's 5:30 a.m. and our team has arrived without warning at one of the many dairies situated in Delhi. Dairies such as these can be found in all towns and cities. What we found was not really out of the ordinary. The usual group of buffaloes, stench of newly dropped dung, and buckets full of fresh and frothy milk that would tempt even an avid milk hater. Customers queue up here to buy milk almost as soon as it's collected. If you're wondering why we're here, let's just say it's to investigate the significance of the all too familiar plastic syringe that is lying next to this bucket of milk.
टीका है वो मारते हैं हम भैंस को, तो उससे भैंस को नशा हो जाता है। नशा हो जाने के बाद में भैंस को जब हम दूध निकालते हैं, उसको तो भैंस को नहीं पता चलता है कि हम दूध निकालें नहीं निकाल लें।
ये तो बस जैसे भाई टेरामाइसिन का टीका बुखार के लिए है, ये अजवाइन सौंठ जैसे ठंड जुकाम हो गया उसके लिए है, वो गोला बना कर दे देते हैं।
These are just two of the many explanations we heard. Some owners even refused to answer our queries. Living on the Edge found that the reason for their reticence was the misuse of oxytocin meant for pregnant women.
ज़्यादा दूध निकालने के लिए आप कुछ टीका देते हैं?
हाँ, जब बच्चे नहीं लगाते तो टीका मारते हैं।
तो टीके से क्या होता है?
वो पास जाती है।
बहन जी, आप ये टीका इस्तेमाल करती हैं?
हाँ जी, करते हैं।
किस वजह?
हर वक्त तो करते नहीं जी, जिस टाइम भैंस दूध नहीं देती उस टाइम तो करना ही पड़ता है।
Even though the short-term gains of administering oxytocin to the animal can't be denied, the long-term consequences for the animal and to those consuming milk can be harmful. To verify this, we took a sample of the milk to have tested at a lab.
सबसे बड़ा नुकसान तो ऑक्सीटोसिन देने का ये है कि जो जानवर टाइम पे कंसीव नहीं कर पाता, ये ऑक्सीटोसिन एक वन ऑफ द रीजन इज ऑक्सीटोसिन इंजेक्शन। अनदर थिंग इज इफ द एनिमल इज प्रेग्नेंट तो उसका एबॉर्शन हो सकता है, क्योंकि एक्सेसिव ऑक्सीटोसिन या ऑक्सीटोसिन देने से द माउथ ऑफ द यूट्रस इज ऑस्यूटरस हम कहते हैं, वो खुल जाता है, तो वो उसमें फिर बच्चा नहीं रह पाएगा और उसका एबॉर्शन हो जाएगा।
Yet, the practice continues unchecked. In order to save time and avoid the waiting period before milking, the faster way is to simply inject the drug, wait a few seconds, and begin. Ampules of this drug are easily available at chemists as well as at local panwalas. Strangely enough, while one ampule costs 10 rupees at the chemist's, it can be bought for only 30 paise at the general store. Although the owners of these shops were first caught unaware by our team, they were quick to recover and refused to sell us the medicine.
और कुछ सामान ले देंगे
टिक्के ना भाई, टिक्के खत्म हो गए। सही कह रहा हूँ, झूठ बोल रहा हूँ। टिक्के खत्म हो गए।
प्रेस रिपोर्टर तो हमारे पीछे भी बड़े।
ये किसके लिए इस्तेमाल होते हैं?
एक्चुअली ये लेडीज के लिए होते हैं, मेनली।
लेकिन हमने सुना है कि ग्वाले भी इस्तेमाल करते हैं इनको।
हाँ।
तो किस वजह से?
वो एक्चुअली वो मिल्क होता है ना, वो ज़्यादा मतलब गाय देने के लिए, जैसे भैंस गाय होती है ना, लगाने से ज़्यादा दूध।
Although the government does hold camps to educate the villagers on how to look after their animals, they seem to be more of a social occasion than anything else.
हमारा भी यही विश्वास है कि भाई दूध बढ़ जाता है, जैसे और लोगों का भी है, इसीलिए इंजेक्शन लगा देते हैं। एक तो इसका ये है कि भाई पशु जल्दी से दूध उतार देता है, दूसरा ये है कि भाई दूध बढ़ जाता है, ऐसा विश्वास। इसके बारे में
नहीं, ये जो आपकी बात है कि भाई दूध इंजेक्शन लगाने से दूध तो फौरन दे देती है, ये तो बात सही है, पर ये कहना कि इसको इंजेक्शन लगाने से दूध बढ़ जाता है, ये बिल्कुल गलत है।
But arguments like this have no meaning for dairy owners.
देखो, किसी को शौक नहीं है ये टीका लगाने का, किसी मरीज को भी शौक नहीं है दवाई लेने का, ये तो सब मुसीबत में करना पड़ता है। जब दूध नहीं मिलता बच्चों को, आज हम भैंस को 50 रुपए की बाट खिलाते हैं और ऊपर से मोल का दूध पिलाएंगे बच्चों को, तो हमें क्या बचेगा?
जैसे अब एक भैंस 10 किलो दूध देती है, हम उसको टीका मारते हैं तो कम से कम 1 किलो का तो हर हालत उसमें कम हो जाता है, वो दूध फर्क तो पड़ता है इस बात से। और दूध में जो पीने में उसमें भी थोड़ा फर्क आ जाए उसमें।
Ultimately, the cow is milked dry. The question is, who is the victim? Is it the unsuspecting customer who may suffer many years hence? Is it the animal that deteriorates rapidly? Or is it the dairy owner who unthinkingly kills unborn calves that can augment his income in the long run? Food for thought for our viewers, and not a repulsion for milk, we hope.
India, considered to be one of the leading mega-diversity states, is home to 16,000 species of flowering plants, 372 species of mammals, 1,230 species of birds, and 399 species of reptiles. The question is, how much of this can we protect?